it is Jo from Minerva, and I'm here with the last episode of making the Canton jacket by Cashmerette Patterns. All the details of the pattern, the sizing, the fitting, the grading and the materials are in episode 1. So we're going to take a look at making the lining and bagging all of that out. So today your jacket will be complete. So let's carry on with our sewing. I've chosen a white lining to put inside my jacket, a sort of creamy white lining. I've done that so that it's easier for me to show you during the sew along. Ideally, I would have put a navy lining inside, or I would have chosen a patterned lining, something really fun, like one of our paisley jacquard ones. They look really, really nice, and they come in a lot of different colours. You're going to assemble your front and back lining pieces, join them at the shoulders, so you should have a complete front and back lining ensemble, and then you're going to work on the sleeve linings. First of all, we are going to sew the lining pieces together. We've also got a back facing that we're going to put in there, so I'm going to show you how to put that in too. Here are the lining pieces. They're different pattern pieces to the main body. They have a lengthen and shorten line on, which I needed to use so that my lining matches up. When they're sewn together, you can clip out the seams and press them. Next, you're going to put the facing pieces on. Now this is back to your main fabric. I'm using pleather. Sew along here and match up the notches. You can do the same on the other side, and that's why you need 3 of those pieces, one for each lining piece and one for your main jacket. Once those are top stitched, you can then take a look at the back. It's got a little vent, so you sew around that curve, and that gives you a little pleat in the back to give you room for your shoulders. Here it is, look, it's got a little bit of space. And now we can add the facing. You can put a label on here, but you need to match up the notches at the sides and at the centre. And the facing goes right to the shoulders. Once it's complete and you've top stitched it, pressed it all down, I've got my little label there. I've overlocked the other side just to keep it all neat. And this is where you can put in a hanging loop if you want one. I've used a piece of gross grain ribbon. Here's the top stitching. And now we can join up the shoulder seam and the side seam. Next, we're going to put these sleeve linings together in exactly the same way that we put the sleeves together. Then we can insert the sleeves, and now our lining is complete. We've got our vent in the back, the leather facings and the sleeves all smoothly inserted. Working now on the hems, we're going to clip up the hem of the main jacket, or pin up the hem at 1.5 inches and press it in place, but we're not going to sew it. We're just going to get a press line all the way along there. Just be careful where you've got your zips that you take your press line without interfering with the bottom of the zip. Continue to match up the seams, and at the end you'll have that little thinner piece there, and just make sure that the zip is lying nice and flat too. It's time to put your lining into your shell of your outer jacket. We're going to be paying particular attention to the hem length and where we have our little pocket facings, because we don't want to catch those as we sew. We've also got to make sure that we're getting a nice finish on that zip, because that's going to flap out, so we want to make sure that everything's lying really smoothly. Now it's going to start getting tricky for me to show you all of this on the table, but I'm going to try and show you in each stage of the pattern instructions. So the first thing we do is to put your lining right sides together with the right sides of your jacket along the collar. And there are some key points. I'll just show you the key points and then you can put in the pins everywhere else. You need your zip teeth to be facing in, not out to the raw edge. And you're going to put on your facing piece. It'll have a dot on it. Mine's on the other side. The end of the collar, the shoulder point, the back neck, the shoulder point, the end of the collar, and the end of the facing. And there's my spot for putting on the snap at the end. So the first place we're going to sew is along the neckline. When you've sewn that on, or when you've clipped it on and you're just holding it up to check it's all right, your hem, this will hang down below the lining. So don't be alarmed, that's your 1.5 inches that you've already pressed up. But let's just start at the top and work our way down. Okay, you've got all your neck on. You might need to clip some of this on these curved places so that you can flip it out. And now we're going to join up the centre fronts. So that's 2 leather pieces, 2 fabric pieces. And you'll be taking a seam allowance down here. On the edge that's got the zip, make sure that the zip is nice and flat and the teeth are facing into the jacket. And on this edge you'll need to use a zipper foot so that you get that 3mm edge showing on the zipper teeth. So when your zip's done up from the front, you've got the same amount of zipper tape showing on either side of the zip. There are a few little details around the hemline. You might have noticed that you've got that little step out at the front, but that will help you to turn up the hem and make sure that your lining hangs from the back of your neck down inside your jacket and doesn't pull your hem up and make a little pucker all around the bottom. Okay, I've got that on. It was really useful to follow the line of my last stitch line to put the zipper tape on, so I know that I haven't got any of my stitches showing through. So I've got 1 line on this side and I've got 2 lines of stitching on this side, the one where I put the zip on and one where I've attached the facing directly on top. Okay, I'm going to flap the jacket around a little bit and we're going to have a look at the hemline. Okay, we're going to deal with these end facings. So these are the 2 facings, the centre front facing and the right or left centre front facing. And so we've just taken a seam down here and now we need to use the seam allowance to go along the bottom. So that's 1/2 inch, and we're going to be 1/2 inch from the edge, and this is where we're going to stop stitching. So we'll have a little bit left over here and this will be joined, and then we're going to clip with our scissors a line here, and that will release this corner of fabric, and underneath you'll have your zip, so you'll be coming to the bottom of your zip. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. Okay, so you've got all of the top of your jacket attached. We're still on the hem, so we've just treated either edge of the hem. And now we're going to have, still with the right sides together, we're going to bring the lining down to the bottom of the shell. And we need that all important magic gap so that we can bag out our lining. And it's on the Canton jacket, it's at the centre back. Now I've got pleather, so I'm going to give myself quite a big hole to bag and push all of that fabric through. If you've got something more pliable, you might be able to make this hole a little bit smaller. And then we're going to line up the rest of this lining with the outer shell and all the way along this edge, and then we can sew the lining to the shell, leaving this gap in the centre across the centre back seam. You ready? Ta-da! So you can pull out your zipper ends on the zipper side so that it's all nice and flat. That will need pressing because you don't want your zipper teeth to catch onto here. And I've got my last row of top stitching to do now along that zipper edge. Got my lining here coming down, and it should be a little bit baggy over the hem because you want room for your back and your shoulders in there. I've poked out the other ends. This will be the sort of collar edge. So a little bit more fabric work to do there, and that's going to be pressed and top stitched, because if you have the jacket open, then that collar needs to match up with that top stitching there. And our last thing to do is to attach the sleeves. The next bit is a little bit tricky to show you because it's applying the ends of the sleeve lining, so you've got to be careful not to twist your fabric and get the wrong sides showing. So let me show you how to put in the sleeve linings. Okay, these are the sleeve hems and we're going to attach the linings. Now, this is a tricky thing to show because a lot of things are happening inside the jacket. So you put your hands inside the jacket and you pull out a lining and a sleeve, the same pair, and you have them separate. And you need to make sure that you get the right seams lined up, otherwise you'll have a twisted sleeve and you have to unpick it and do it again. So I've sort of looked inside and I've just marked it zip, that's the seam that goes round the zip, and under, that's the seam that's underneath. So when I attach this sleeve to this lining, I'll know that I haven't twisted the lining around. You need to keep that hem that you've got pressed up at 1.5 inches. Mine's a bit bouncy with the pleather, so it's a bit trickier to hold in position. And I'm going to slide this sleeve into this lining. I'm going to pull them out a little bit so I've got a bit more to show you. So this sleeve is going to go inside the lining, so you've got the right side of the hem going into the right side of the fabric. And this is where you can get them mixed up, so I was just double checking that there's my gusset, my zip one lines up with my zip seam of my lining. Just going to loosely clip that in place, and the same on the other side. Just check I'm not losing that 1.5. Okay, I'm going to pin this so that there's not so many clips in the way, and then I'll show it you. So the sleeve went with the hem right side touching the lining right side, the zipper seam lined up with the gusset, and the underarm seam, the underarm. And you'll sort of have these two sleeves attached in a big long tube, and it's really difficult to orientate yourself and understand what's happening, but you just have to sort of trust the process of the pattern and pin your lining and sleeves together. It's quite difficult to get under the machine, but you're going to sew around that circumference, and then you can turn the sleeve back out. When you turn it back through, you genuinely think, how on earth did that happen? But there it is, all of the lining is inside. You've got your 1.5 inch turn up, When you sew your zipper gussets up, you'll get that little fold inside, but that will all be smooth for your lining. What you can do, I just turned it out to check that I hadn't got it twisted or anything, is you can just sew the lining to the seam allowance on the inside, and that stops your lining pulling down and hanging below the edge of your jacket. One more time, and I'll just show you the pinning together process. And here's the magic. When you know that everything is correct on the inside and you've tested through your sleeves and attached your sleeve linings and everything, then it is time to close up the opening at the bottom. So you're going to fold over the lining, and then you pin the lining to the jacket, but not on that folded edge. You need a little overhang, like a little flap. You can see there I'm just taking a bit of the jacket and a bit of the lining with a 1 centimetre fold for wearing ease. Your jacket is now completely wearable, but you can add the decorative snaps if you want to. They're not functional, so you're not trying to match one snap up with another, but we're going to put the snaps that match the zip colour on the 2 collar points. So you'll have a marking, and you're going to use an awl to make a hole through the fabric. Put the button shank through the hole. You're going to put the back on. So that the recessed bit will sit inside the snap and the shank comes through the hole in the centre. I've just put a mat underneath so I don't damage anything else on the jacket. I'm going to put the disc, looks like a little dish, for the snap to sit in. And the punch that's got a little nib on the end, that will spread out the inside and hold it to the snap. When you hit it with a hammer, you will spread out the metal and it will attach the snap to the reverse. Okay, the jacket is all finished. I'm going to put it on for you. Got my label, my hook, my lovely soft lining. So you can wear it open. You've got a couple of different ways to wear it closed. So you can have it as the pattern images with those collars out, or you can also fold it up completely and the collars just sit on top. Got my sleeve gussets, they're all working well. I did top stitch those in the end just so that they didn't catch the gusset. I didn't top stitch around the front pockets. I just wanted that princess seam to be really soft. I'm wearing a t-shirt dress underneath, so I've got plenty of room here in the underarm. It's a nice jacket fit for wearing with a jumper. The back is quite a short cut. You can have the shorter one, but I wanted room for a jumper. I absolutely love it. I think it's probably one of the most accomplished things that I've made. Never mind filming it for you guys at the same time. I'm going to put together some of the skills of making pleather into a sewing pleather video. So if this jacket isn't your thing, but you want to have a go at sewing pleather, maybe you want to make a handbag or rucksack or something like that, then I'll put the skills specific to pleather in a different video. If you've watched this jacket and thought you would like to have a pleather jacket, but all of these details are a little bit much, then you could try a couple of other patterns. I searched out Vogue 1877, which is a bomber jacket. It's unisex, so you can do men's or women's, and it's a much simpler style if you want to have a go at using this fabric. There's also New Look 6545, again, a really simple bomber jacket. If you like New Look patterns and you like the instructions, then that might be one to try. Jarley have a pattern for a bomber jacket too. I love Jarley patterns. I don't know why I don't sew with them more. They have really good size ranges on, so you can buy one pattern. It's a really good value and you can use it for more than one member of your family or friends. If this jacket wasn't enough for you, then you can really up your game with Vogue 1747 for some real drama. So this has got a different sort of hem on, a sort of fluted high-low hem. You can add lots of details. You could make it in different tweeds. It's really a really advanced pattern that you can make a super jacket from. You'll get a much easier sew on this jacket if you don't use pleather, so you could use denim or cord or brocade or jacquard or a canvas, a thick canvas. All of those things will be easier because you can pin them. I had to use clips all the way through here. I couldn't pin anything, and actually my elbows are a bit achy because I've been squeezing everything and gripping it together with my hands rather than having pins. So that will give you a different look jacket. You can also try plastic zips rather than metal zips, and you'll get a much softer look. It's really important that you make a 12 for this jacket because you want to make sure that you get the shoulder fit right. The shoulder pads in here really support the weight of the pleather shoulders, and I also know that I've got my waist in my waist and the sleeves are the correct length. So if you want to check out the 12 details, they're in episode 1. Well, that's it for today. It's good to think of a big make like this as the chapters of a really good book where you savour each chapter and enjoy each part of the process. If you'd like to check out any of the products or the Canton jacket, you can go on Minerva's website, take a look at Minerva Makers. Some of these sample jackets are on there for you to see. It's really great that they have different sized models and people wearing this jacket, so you can really get a flavour of how it could fit into your wardrobe. Thank you very much. See you again soon.